All right, everyone wants to know, everybody's talked about it. What inspired the look tonight, Zeke? You gotta tell us.
Honestly, I woke up like this.
Fine. All right. It's your co-host Z, and I am here with Melissa. She's one of our panelists. Can you tell us who you are and what you do?
Sure. I am Melissa Vincent. I am the executive director of Pipeline Entrepreneurs. It sounds like we're in oil and gas industry. We're actually not. It's a fellowship for high growth entrepreneurs in Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska.
So, if you had to have one superpower, what would it be?
Ooh. Everyone always says flying, but I'd want to be able to be invisible. Right?
You go anywhere, do anything.
I'm honestly a bit of an introvert, so being able to just be like, it's a big crowd, be like, I'm just going to go invisible for a minute and hang out.
Right.
I can only have one? Oh, no, gosh, let's see. I would have hair. I'd pick that one. Is that a superpower?
It'll work.
That counts. Okay.
It'll work. All right, thank you so much.
Oh, wow.
It's hard.
I know, I would say invisible, but my kids are all growing up, so I no longer really need that. I've really always wanted to fly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where would you fly to?
Well, I think I would just like to fly and avoid traffic.
We'll start with the first question. What inspired the look tonight?
So I'm not big on the formal wear, so I was like, I'm gonna bring out the best looking clothes I got to show up tonight to the first in-person event of 22. I had to look good.
Just laid back, comfortable, black, for every event.
Honestly, I woke up like this. I'm joking, but I don't know. I just want to go with a black dapper and the pants. I just inspired. I don't know. No, nothing inspired. I inspired myself, so I don't know.
Look, I'm always in French cuffs and button downs, and I just wanted to kind of dress it down a little bit and just do a more casual look. And I knew there'd be some people trying to stunt, but they ain't rolling like me, so I'm doing my own thing.
And who is someone you admire in business?
I would say probably my father would be the given one, somebody who's done a lot for other people and just done a lot for the communities around him.
What is something that you want our audience to know tonight, or something you want them to take home?
The importance of mindset. I grew up in an alcoholic family, and one of the things you have to do is you have to have resilience and grit, sometimes in ways that you never thought you would.
Wow. Yeesh. I'm going to go Jay-Z today.
Okay, Jay-Z. Why Jay-Z? That's a good.
Just because he showed that there's more than one way to make money, right? He came in the game as a rapper, but also decided to be an investor and a partner and a leader of a lot of different roles, and I think that's very inspiring.
I am Scott Havens, and I work here at Hub International. I'm a partner in the largest privately held insurance brokerage doing property and casualty and employee benefits.
So what is one goal you have for this year?
My goal is to hang out with Zeke and to have a great time, and that's pretty much it.
We have the man of the hour with us. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. I'm excited, nervous, but excited in a good way. So it's a lot of the wall.
What are you looking forward to the most tonight?
I am looking forward to the speakers actually being able to speak and impact knowledge, because I know that everyone on the panel, legends. They've been in the industry for over 30 years, so they know their stuff. So I'm just a young guy trying to say, hey, I want to learn from you guys. So I'm really excited to be able to have them on, and also the crowd here. It's crazy. It's crazy. So yeah. So
this is gonna be an amazing event. All right, everyone wants to know. Everybody's talked about it. What inspired the look tonight, Zeke? You gotta tell us.
Honestly, I woke up like this. I'm joking, but I don't know. I just want to go with a black dapper and the pants. I just inspired. I don't know. No, nothing inspired. I inspired myself, so I don't know.
With a soon-to-be big round of applause, Zeke came to me about an event, and holy moly, after challenging him a ton, he's done an absolutely amazing job. This is 100% all him, and I'm really excited because I kept trying to encourage him to do boring stuff, and he didn't listen to me, and that's why this is a success. Zeke, come on up.
Thank you, Scott. I appreciate it. Scott has just been too humble. He put this all together. I was so stressed about this event. I called Scott on the phone. I was like, hey, Scott, I have an idea. I want to host an event. I have no venue, no panelists. All I have is an idea. He's like, I got you. I have some panelists. I have a location. I'm like, problem solved. So, so he's just been humble. So thank you so much, Scott. I appreciate you. A round of applause for Scott, by the way. Now, as you can see, I'm a little bit tense because the last time I did this was in college, which was about almost a year ago. So I haven't spoken to a lot of people a long time that I was forced to do back in college. So this is free will. So I'm excited to have everyone here. Thank us for showing up. I am so, you have no idea. See all these faces here for the first event of the year. This is just marvelous. So I just want to give yourselves a round of applause just for being here. All right, so today, why we're here, because you're not here for me, here for the panelists, the awesome panelists we got going on today. So everyone on this panel, I don't even know how I'm gonna sit up here with them because they have a bunch of experience. When I mean 30 years of experience, and I'm just like 2 years of experience, so I'm just here trying to learn. But first, I'm gonna bring on Randy Powell, the stage. Make some noise for Randy. So coming up next, we have Melissa Vincent. Make welcome Melissa Vincent. Coming up next, we're gonna have Harry Campbell. Harry Campbell. And the last but not the least, the main ladies have André Davis. Welcome. While I get my notes together, I'm gonna have kind of everyone give us this, like I know you guys probably watched this video, but if you didn't, just kind of like a brief bio. People know who we have on stage today. So I'm gonna go with Melissa first.
Oh, thank you. I am Melissa Vincent, and I am the Executive Director of Pipeline Entrepreneurs, which is not in the oil and gas industry, even though it sounds like it. We're actually a fellowship for high growth entrepreneurs in the Midwest, and that is Kansas, Nebraska, and Missouri. And shout out to our pipeline fellows that are here tonight. Thank you so much for being here.
Awesome. Randy Powell, CEO of United Rotary Brush, owner of Harlan Print and Design, and host of the Lessons in Leadership podcast.
Harry Campbell. I am W-2 retired. Yes. And what I do to fill my time, since I'm not allowed to be home between 8:30 and 4:30, that's a directive from my wife, is I'm an investor, I'm a speaker, an author, and a coach and a mentor, and I love the Kansas City business community.
Well, welcome. I'm so glad to see these faces, man. Look at the diversity in this room. Loving all of this. So, my name is André Davis. I play in the circle of corporate and community engagement. What that really means to you, I have lunch, I have a drink or two, I meet some fascinating people, we try to solve problems. I also straddle nonprofit world, so too many boards to name that I sit on. I'm trying to shed some boards, so if you're interested in boards, I have a couple that I could give you. And I'm lucky I know all these people here. And so I could actually sit down and not do a thing and just take notes, quite frankly, because these guys know everything. But I'm thrilled. Zeke did a good job, man. I'm proud of you. I'm still going to borrow that suit, though.
Awesome. So this is going to be more like an open conversation. I start with ask, and then everyone can give their opinion on what they want to add. But the goal of this conversation today is more like a pass down of knowledge, because as a young person, coming out, I know there's a lot of young faces here, kind of learning from everyone on stage today, because I'm learning, and that's kind of going to be the goal today. So first, I'm going to first ask Harry. So my question for Harry was also for everyone. But Harry, so this is the question, Harry. So you've had tremendous success in growing teams over the past decades. What would you say separates people who succeed and those who do not?
Wow. I'm going to give you one, and I'm going to give you one that probably surprises you. I'm going to say self-awareness. When I'm interviewing, talking to somebody, or thinking about investing in a business, I really want to understand if the person that I'm putting my chips on the table for understands themselves, let's say their personal brand, who they are, how they come across to other people. And the reason why I'm going to say that is because the tentacles that does create in a positive way are amazing. If you have self-awareness, you probably listen better. You know what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you need help from. You're more likely to want to ask for help. And all those things are critically important. So in order to narrow it down, I'm going to go with self-awareness.
Integrity, speaks to me a little bit. How you treat other people speaks to me. What your non-negotiables are speak to me. What you're not going to do for the benefit of only you, how you want to impact other people would be something I would say. What other people might say about you is important because it matters. And I don't think I'd add any more than that. I think those are the things that I look at as just integrity, and I typically don't ever have to have people tell me to speak up louder. This is amazing. This is outstanding. But I think the integrity piece is huge for me. I want to know who I'm doing business with and what they value.
I'm going to go with authenticity. And the reason why I say that is because I was just having and we were talking about André. And André is a perfect example of authenticity. There are a lot of people who can be very outgoing and warm and friendly. The difference is you can tell when it's real. And André is an example of when that is real and legitimate and you can feel that. So when you are your authentic self and you're true to who that is, that shines.
You know, what comes to mind is folks demonstrate to you in their actions what matters most. And so if they're inwardly focused on what's good for my career and my bonus and my results and my achievements, the team kind of gets trampled and left behind in the dust. But if what matters most is team success, and I'm really, really invested in making sure Melissa and Harry and André do well, that shines through.
Sweet. This is going to be a follow-up for Harry. So for someone who says you've seen that they don't have all these qualities, because I know you've been in leadership for like a decade, and you've been able to help teams grow. What are some things you would say you would do to help them go from step one to being able to become that superpower?
One of the things that I love to do is to talk to folks about 3 simple steps that I think you need to do to be successful. One of them is treat people around you like adults. Most of my stuff, by the way, comes from what you learned in kindergarten, so don't think you're getting any fancy-ass stuff from me. I just want you to know that. Treat them like adults, give them the tools to do their job, and help them feel like they're connected to something bigger than themselves. I have seen 12 times in little, medium, and big companies over the last 30 years. If you can do that, treat them like adults, give them the tools to do their job, and make them feel connected to something bigger than themselves, people will be rock stars, and they'll go get it for you.
So I think part of it is trying to figure out what is it that people want, right, at the end of the day. It's you've got to tap into that, right? So when you're sitting down with people, and certainly you're developing people, you've got to figure out what they're interested in. And I think if you're a leader, the kind of leader that I want to be around, you have to recognize, too, that if your company no longer fulfills their need, it's really your responsibility to help them move along. If you're the kind of leader, you would open those doors and go, hey, you know, this is not working. And it's probably on me, because we probably should have recognized that earlier. So here's what I want to do. Where would you want to go? Is there some introductions I could make to get you to your next? Because it doesn't have to be a bad exit, right? Sometimes you can't avoid a bad exit. I don't think it always has to be a bad exit. So I think if you're a leader, the onus is on you. If you have someone in your camp that doesn't fit any longer, it's not doing their job, it doesn't have to be a bad exit for them. So for me, it's how do you help them move along into the things that they want to do? How do they speak to their passions? And how do they chase their dreams, not yours?
Awesome. So next question is going to be from Melissa, since we have André speak. So Melissa, I want to ask you this. What has been one thing that has set you apart to be so successful in your career?
All right, I'm going to give my dad credit for this. And if he were listening, he'd be really appreciative. But from a young age, my dad always said to me that when I ran into a problem, he would say, it's no big deal. It's just another problem to be solved. And the ability to problem solve is so critical to success. And how we view problems, if we see them as mountains, then we give up, or we feel like we have to go around them versus figuring out how to solve them. And so from a young age, that's how he treated that, was it's just a problem to be solved. It wasn't a big deal. And if there's one lesson I'd like to instill in my son, it's the same thing. And I try to say that same thing because it has been the one critical piece that has helped me be successful, is to not panic when something happens. Because I mean, stuff's always going to happen. Things are always going to go wrong when you're running a company, when you're, even working for someone. Things are going to happen. How you handle that adversity is going to be like how your success, like that's how it's going to happen. And so that was a game changer for me.
So this is going to be for you, Randy. So people's story are kind of a way to know their process and learn from their mistakes. And I know with lessons on leadership, you're basically having people tell their stories, and you've traveled all over the place, kind of hearing people's story. I want to ask you this, and this is going to be for everyone as well, is what do you think is the importance of, for you being able to learn about people's story? How does that help you, and why is that important?
Well, there were two things that evolved. One, I originally started in accounting, and I prided myself on, I'm going to know accounting so good, the right answer is the right answer, and I can be the biggest jerk in the world, and the right answer is the right answer. And then when I had this opportunity to move out of accounting and start working my way up towards running a company, but I moved out to run a couple construction companies, and I'm like, I have no more technical skills. I'm leading a bunch of people that know more than me, and I don't know anything about how to tell them how to do their job, and I probably never will the rest of my life. So I want to go learn from people who have a leadership journey and find out how do they motivate and inspire teams, because I couldn't come in this room and tell any of you how to do your job well, but maybe I can find a story that would motivate you, inspire you, and be a person and a better leader and make a more positive impact in your community. So I started with that. If I just want to learn people's journey. What I found out that was the side benefit is you think your own obstacles and your own mountain is the biggest mountain in the world. I remember, walking out of an apartment in Oregon. I was there 2 weeks. It was cloudy, it was gloomy, it was raining like it does in Portland. I walk out and there's Mount Hood. 13,000. You're just like, crap, this is the front of me. Our obstacles are like that. Like my struggle is the biggest struggle. When you go people, you find out that their struggles are really big mountains, and sometimes their mountains were way bigger than your mountains, and you start to feel like, well, if they can make it, I can make it too.
I was letting that simmer a little bit. I know when you sit back and you hear these stories, and we're on the panel, and here's what I want you to think about. Everyone here has a story. Because we're only seeing what we see, how people look, how they dress, what they drive, we think that's the story, like you woke up and you did that. What you're seeing on stage is a lot of failure. And to me, the way I look at failure is success loading. So you really can't have success in life, no matter what it, not financial success, any success, without stumbling. But Oprah, and I would quote Oprah, because I like Oprah. Why would I not quote her? Oprah says when you fail, it's just life moving you into a different direction. So if you can think about how you go back, the problem that we have, the challenge we have, is sometimes we're not willing to do those things. We're not willing to get damaged or get hurt or to fail for what people may think it looks like. It doesn't matter. You can't grow without failing. There's no growth without failing. And in failure, honestly, is not really failure. That's where all the learning stuff happens. And we've all failed in big ways. And so get to know people you're around. Figure out, don't ask about the business. Ask about the story. When I meet with people, I'm like, tell me about you. And it's weird because I'll have people, hey, but I want to know about your company. I don't want to talk about that though. Tell me about you. Like, how did you become a CFO? What was that journey like? Because you were an engineer first. So how do you get to that? And I promise you, when you start learning about people, you won't put them on pedestals. You will not.
Yeah, that was real good. That was real good. I think you all said it all. I feel like a story defines a person. Everyone of us on the stage has a story. Me, a less of a story than everyone on stage because I'll have only a few to tell. But going on to the next question, this is going to be for André, and it can be for everyone can take a bite at it. But I want to ask you, André, how can I create demand for me?
Next story. You can't do that. That's what I do. No, you can't do that. No, it's interesting. I knew I had, God-given probably, a way of making people feel really comfortable around me. I didn't know how to use it, not use it in a bad way. I didn't know really what I was doing. I was just acknowledging I was doing that. And then I started discovering that, to me, my value was equally tied to the value I gave first. And I would say that again. Your value is tied to the value you give, right? And so when you want to create, if you're into cremating, then cremate, but it's not create. If you want to create demand for yourself, you know, and it seems counterintuitive when you think about it. When you're meeting with people, when you're engaging with people, don't worry about how it benefits you. Only worry about the effect you have on other people. I promise you, it's an easier path to any revenue goal you'll ever want. Because those people become really strong community advocates. They will break their neck to help you. I had a little stretch in banking. Didn't know anything about banking. And I was called to help this banker meet with scale, and I was doing my thing, didn't know about banking, and I go to these meetings, and I go, I'm not a banker. I represent a bank. I'm here to learn about you and the business and how you're leveraging banks. And I had a lot of success in a year for no one to do banking. I drove $45 million in commercial lending in 1 year. Not knowing anything about banking, not talking about banking. People don't care about what you do. They only care about what you're asking them, right? So learn about them, learn about their challenges, what they're trying to do, and be an advocate for bringing people that can impact their lives in a really good way. And I promise you, those same people will kill themselves to help you in ways you can't even fathom.
Anyone want to take a bite of that?
If you've ever been taught this really lousy sales training, ABC, always be closing, every meeting's got a motive, go get therapy, have your mind, get that thing from Men in Black that you blink and you forget, because that sucks. You're gonna get sniffed out fast and no one's gonna spend any time with you if all you're doing is selling. The more you invest in others, the more it will come back to you. It's that easy, but ABC, don't do it.
Wow.
Yes. Be joyful. Fill yourself with joy. People want to be around you. They want to help you. It's amazing. It's a simple little tip that I just thought of now, and I had to add on something. I mean, what the hell? He had a great answer.
Awesome. So yeah, I mean, give more in terms of value, because I feel like I read I think is The Go Giver, and I really kind of give it a perspective of being able to give, because the more you give, the more value comes back to you. It might not be today, it might not be in 5 years' time, but one day, all the giving you give, you know, it's going to come back replenished. Now, next question. Let's talk about failure, because as you said, we are all failures up here, and I agree with that. I've had a lot of failures in my life. Now, I want to ask this. I'm going to ask you first, Melissa. What would you say is a significant failure that you thought was going to take you out, but turned out to be a learning process?
Oh, man. Start with me. Okay. So I'm always very transparent about this, because I think it's super important that, to Andre's point, that we're transparent about our failures, because we all have them. So I am also a serial entrepreneur before I was with Pipeline, and when I first started out on my own, I had a business partner who embezzled a lot of money. And it should have tanked my company. 100%, I should not have come back from that. But to kind of tie together everything that we're saying, I had built relationships with the clients that I had, and because of that, it did not tank my company. And what I learned from that was, one, have a really good agreement with your developer and your business partner. So legal's super important when you have a startup. But also, the moral of the story is, and this is something that someone said to me, and I will repeat this, is really good advice. You make decisions that you make at a time with the information you have. When you have better information, you make better decisions. The thing that would have tanked me is if I had spent all my time thinking, why did I let that happen? Why did I make that mistake? With the information I had when I had him as my business partner, it was the right decision. But when I had better information, it was clearly the wrong decision. So I did the things to remedy that and fix that. But if I had spent all my time doubting myself and saying, oh my gosh, that was the worst decision ever, how did I do that? I wouldn't have been able to move on from that and be successful. So it is trusting yourself and being able to move on from it.
That is inspirational. I'm just taking all that in. I'm happy that we have cameras. I'm going to watch that over again, learn from that. Next question. Since Andre, you brought up grit, I'm gonna go right to grit. I'm gonna ask you. I'm probably gonna start with you, Harry. What does the word grit mean to you? Because I know you are called a grinder, so I want to hear that one.
Yeah, nickname amongst my friend group is Grinder because I'm great at nothing. I'm good or mediocre at everything, but I never quit. If you want to play me in bowling, you better bring a change of underwear because we're staying like 3 days until I win. I just want you to know we're not leaving. It's just the way it works. And so I just keep grinding away. And grit to me means resilience. It means getting up, dusting yourself off, and going after it again. It means learning, and it means all those things put together that says I'm not going to let that failure beat me. I'm going to figure out how to win as a result of it and help other people in the meantime.
Oh, is it to me? Anyone who wants to take a bite at it can take a bite at it.
Yeah, he said resilience, and I talk about resilience a lot, and I interview a lot of people about resilience and grit who have been through, their mountains were bigger than mine, and they've been through really tough times, and you've got to decide up front, because the bad things are going to happen, and the bad month and the bad year, and it'll tie into when we talk about goals. I know you said you wanted to talk about goals, and to me, you leave yourself room in your goals that there are good months and bad years. But are the bad things going to make you bitter, or are they going to make you better, to use that old cliche? Because there's going to be a bad year, and there's going to be a bad time. And do you give up and just say, well, this is also ominous, this is also big, I don't know how to move forward? Or do you just say, okay, I'm going to go around this mountain, I'm going to climb that hill, and I'm going to keep on going because I can't stop, because I believe so passionately in here about where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do and the difference I wanted to make, that this bad thing won't really stop me long term.
Wow. Following that, I'm going to tell a short story, hopefully short. So for those who do not know, I am originally from Nigeria. I grew up all my life in Nigeria. I came here in 2016. When I think of grit, I think of my mom. Back when I was in Nigeria, my family, so my dad had more than one wife, about 5 wives in the same house. So it was Nigeria. So it was a huge house, so we always had issues. Sometimes my dad would decide not to give us money to eat. So one of those times was a time when he stopped giving us money, and we had to go and hawk in the market. I had to climb the trees to get the orange down, get some vegetables to go into the market, and I would push those to the market for my mom. But during that time, I saw my mom at a place where she could have given up and said, hey, we're done, let's pack it up and leave. She stayed through the grind. And I was speaking with her the other day. My brother lives in Iowa, my other brother lives in Europe. But this is something that happened 10 years ago, right? So I was talking with her on the phone the other day, and she told me that an uncle of mine saw her and was like, hey, her name is Christina. She was like, Christina, do you remember the time I saw you on the road pushing a wheelbarrow of vegetables? She's like, yeah. He was like, I can't believe where you are today, because my mom has moved to the US about 2 or 3 times from where she used to be. And I'm here today, not because of what I am capable of doing, but because of faith, I would say. But just seeing how she stuck through to the end, and she's gonna move here sometime soon, but she went through so much pain, but now she's reaping it. Because everyone thought she was stupid then, because she was still grinding it out, but today, it turns out she's the most favorite person, but it's the grit, the grind that gets you where you are. So, speaking of that, to next question.
Important. So, Miss Melissa took the liberty. I was going to talk to this water. I don't know why. I haven't drank a thing, honestly. So Melissa takes the liberty to introduce me to Sandy Kemper, and so I say that with all humbleness, right? Because I didn't know Sandy, but when I got to Sandy's office, we were talking about a lot of different things. But when I left, he gave me this book called Grit. Has anybody read the book Grit? I got to tell you, if you haven't read that book, you need to get that book. Because it talks a lot about the psychological, am I still doing this? So it talks a lot about the psychological science behind grit and passion and perseverance. And so just a plug on that. I love the book. Angela Duckworth's awesome. She was here last year for the C3 conference, the Junior League's C3 conference, which I'm an advisory board member there. So we promoted that. Adam Grant's coming this year, which is another one. If you haven't read Think Again, you don't know what you don't know. I'm in reading that one now, but I'm telling you, the grit thing is real, and you can call it grinding, you can call it whatever you want, but it's your relentless pursuit of your passion and what you won't let get in the way of what you really want.
I'm a sports freak, and I wanted to be good at something, and I'm not. But I realized long distance running, you just got to keep going. I run as fast for 100 meters as I do for 10,000 meters. And I ended up running at Vanderbilt, and I loved it. And once I graduated, I quit because I hated running, but I loved competing in long distance because it was something I could do.
Tell me about the record. Does the record still exist?
No, it doesn't. I set the school record at Vanderbilt for 10,000 meters, and it stood for 35 years, and was broken in 2017, and has since been broken twice more. So they're crushing it now, but I was the man for a while.
That's right. That's right.
Man, that was awesome. So Andre, from last time we spoke, he told me about grit, so I started reading it. So that's why I kind of raised my hand. I'm like, I'm almost reading it. I'm not all the way there, but that is a phenomenal book. The other one that kind of almost rhymes with is The Alchemist, which is like this young kid who's like going through all these things, just pushing forward and making sure he gets to the goal, which he finds out is not a goal. But anyways. Humbled. So this might be the last question depending on our time. So I'm going to ask this. Melissa, get ready because it's going to come to you. So I know each and every one of you here, you had to set goals at different stages to get to where you are today. How do you set and accomplish attainable goals while having this huge dream in your mind?
Ooh, this is a good one. I feel like I should have to let this one marinate for a minute, though.
Yeah, sometimes you do have to let it simmer. I think it has to do with, a lot of it has to do with grit, right? So if you know where you're supposed to be, that is your end point, right? And so how you get there is just a matter of the path, right? And so if you know what your goal is, then you need to back up from there and say, okay, well, what are the steps that I need to do to get there? So, for me as an entrepreneur, if I want to reach a certain point in my company, let's say I need a certain number of users, then I have to put together, looking at you, Joshua Lewis, then I have to put together how am I going to get there and what are the things and the steps that I need to do. So it's starting with the end in mind. So where do I want to be? And then what are the things that I need to do to build on that to get there? And honestly, keeping that fire and the passion there, because that's how you stay the course. So it is going to be windy. There are going to be things, as we've talked about, that do not go your way. It's staying the course and keeping the passion, and that step by step will get you there. It's not going to look like you thought it was going to. You can plan it out however you want. Projections are just that, they're projections, but they're not. It's making sure that you stay the path and you give yourself a framework and always show yourself some grace. Also the people around you.
Anyone take it?
I talk more about trajectory than specific goals, and I kind of put it in a swim lane because I started with, like less than zero, and so I couldn't have predicted exactly where I am or what I would have done. Everything I owned was in 2 milk crates, and I went to open a bank account, and the bank said, we don't want people like you as a customer. And I remember going to try and get an accounting job interview, and I walked in, and the lady just started laughing at my cheap JCPenney suit, and she said, you look like you just came off the Beverly Hillbillies. We're throwing you out. I'll do you a favor, go buy a GQ magazine and learn how to dress. And what she didn't know is I couldn't afford the magazine, much less whatever was in it, because I had no money. And so from that, I just said, I don't know how I'm gonna make it, and this will sound stupid, but I said, I'm gonna increase my income $10,000 a year for the rest of my life, and I'll either get promoted or change jobs, but nothing will stop me from moving up. Now, I didn't even know I don't think I even knew anybody that made $100,000 a year, so I might have said $1 billion. But I was just like, I'm gonna do whatever it takes to keep increasing my value and move up from that. And I stayed on that path probably for 10 years, and then I found myself pulling away from it and exceeding all my goals and doing things now I never could have specifically laid out, but I attribute it to that trajectory of I said, okay, I'm gonna give myself room in the swim lane to do different things, but nothing will stop me from moving up and increasing my worth to myself.
Awesome. So this is a stage where we give it up to the crowd to ask questions. We have an extra mic over there. We can have someone grab it over there and yeah, my apologies. I just like sharing. I like sharing, that's it. I just like all of us to share. So, it works better. It works better. But yeah, so yeah, go ahead.
Hi. Andre, I'm going to
right, you on the hot seat.
Yes.
In front of mine.
It's okay. Okay, can you, I don't.
You don't need a mic. You don't.
They do for the
You said earlier, and I want you to elaborate
Yeah.
because I think it could be taken out of context.
Okay.
You said, care about what people say about you. So can you elaborate on to how far you care without that being something you focus
If
on?
I said that, I meant don't care what people say about you. I mean, really, it shouldn't matter what people care about you. You shouldn't care what people say, especially people that don't know you. You should only care about your circle and how they're influencing you and the people that are really championing you. So I don't care what people think. I want people to like me. I don't wake up and get up and say, hey, I hope I'm likable. I'm doing the work, and I've done the work for over 20 plus years, and I know what my value is to people. I don't worry about that. So if I said that, let's scrub that tape later on, Jackie. Let's get that off there because we don't need that there.
Sweet. So you can, Victor, if you can help me turn up the mic, the second mic over there, so they can have that sound going on. It's right there.
Is it working?
Yes, I think it's working now.
I'm going to address the self-awareness thing just very briefly. It's hard as heck. In fact, a lot of people kid themselves that they have this. I'm going to go back to the first section of the first book I wrote. It was on leadership in 2012, and I created a really, really simple device called 7 words because I believe you have to figure out your personal brand. And one of the best ways to be self-aware is to figure out what people see in you and how your body language, tone, actions affect them. And you need to find that out anonymously. If you go to my website, harryscampbell.com, 7 words about me, you can find out anonymously what the words are that people use to describe you. It only costs $300. It's free. I don't care. It's on my website, and it's an interesting tool because the gap between what you think of yourself and what the world thinks of you is way more important than what your words are. Because the gap is the problem, the gap is the lack of self-awareness, and the gap has a chance to crush you. And so I would encourage you to do that. So from a self-awareness standpoint, understanding your personal brand and your impact on other people is hugely important, and you can do it that way.
Next person who has a question. Okay. I think Josh already, and then we can get you.
How do you find the good in something when it's negative? There's a couple things, right? There's like the heart way of looking at that, and then there's like the business way of looking at it, right? And so from a business sense, there is no failure because everything is teaching you. And when you think about like, depending on your methodology in a startup, you're like, you know, you have an MVP, you're pivoting, right? You're trying to fail fast. And so if you're trying to fail fast, then failure is just an indicator, just giving you insight. And so for me, when there's a failure, I'm like, oh, okay. It's not really failure, it's just guidance. It's like, oh, okay, this, not that. And so from that perspective, I also am like, probably like hopelessly, I'm easily amused and hopelessly optimistic. And so as a result of that, I'm like, oh, that didn't work. Oh, this did, great, okay, let's focus on that. But I say that jokingly, but it really does. Like it teaches you what to focus on, and if you fail fast, you're able to do that faster and quicker. And honestly, life experience. Like I think all of us up here can say, over time, you have enough failures where you're like, actually, that worked out best for me in the end. And you start to trust your instinct on things to be able to say, okay, that's not going well. Okay, time to pivot. You know, it's life experience, and the beauty of failure is that, man, there's so much good that comes out of it. It just depends on how you do it. Now, the heart thing, really quick, is this. I've always viewed failure as, and this is key with our entrepreneurs, if I can spare somebody else from making the same mistake I made because I went through that failure, then it's worth it. Because if I can take my lesson and share it to you and you don't make that mistake, totally worth it.
Wow, that's awesome. Lauren, I'm going to have you.
Thank you. I am aware that that's cheating. No, I'm only a little ashamed.
Yeah, just say What I would tell you is it's clear to the people that if you're helping people, I won't name the company or the person, a couple people, that have asked for help multiple times and haven't given a thing. And I don't keep score. I acknowledge. I'm not keeping score. I discontinue the servant leadership because then you're being taken advantage of. So you have to monitor how oftentimes people come back to you for things, and in between when you've given the thing and they haven't had any contact with you, and they come back for another ask, and then there's another ask, to me, that's no longer servant leadership. And so, I manage that. If you're with the right people, it's never a problem. The people here and in this room, I'm sure it's not a problem. I think Scott probably has to worry about that too, because he gives up his time like many of us do. We give our time, and the way I gauge it is I trust the person that's introducing me. Melissa was kind when she introduced me to Jeff Jones and said, Jeff wants to meet you. And I said, well, who's Jeff? And she said, the CEO of H&R Block. She goes, do you have time to meet Jeff? And I said, well, I was going to mow the yard, but I guess I could, if I have to, I'll meet Jeff. And so I told her, I said, you never have to ask me because I trust you. You would not waste my time. And so I trust the people that are introducing me to people. Certainly we have moments where people slide through and there's an agenda and you just discontinue that is what I would say. And so I think, and I think the other question was, how can you help us? Just doing the things you're doing today by showing up. I think oftentimes we think when we meet people, we have to know when we meet that person, how they can help us. You don't. All I care about is your willingness to help me. That's all I care about. We'll get to how. I care about the willingness though.
Being a servant leader is like having kids. Even though they will fight you on setting healthy boundaries, they still need them. And so when you're a servant leader, and you are as well, it is you have to set healthy boundaries because otherwise people will sometimes intentionally and sometimes unintentionally take advantage. And so when you set healthy boundaries, it makes it a much easier relationship going forward. And then everyone knows where the boundaries are. And so when something happens, you're able to address it in love. Always speak the truth in love, but you're able to address it. So having kids. Oh, here we go.
Servant leadership. I had the blessed opportunity to actually have a conversation with Sam Walton about this when I was on assignment in Northwest Arkansas. And in his headquarters is written servant leaders, and it's about 3 feet high, and every one of the vice presidents and up in his company, their names on the wall under that sign. And I asked him about it, and he said, Harry, I need you to understand the people that work here, your job as a VP and up is to make the people that work for you make their job easier. And I said, well, that's kind of a cool concept. I worked for Procter & Gamble at the time. My boss didn't think that way. My job was to figure out what my boss wanted and make sure I delivered it in every way that he wanted. He said, your job is to make their job easier. And he said, there's one more statement that's very important. If you get it backwards, you won't work here.
Well said. At this point, man, this has been a wonderful conversation. It went way more than I thought it was gonna go. Like in terms of material, in terms of content. I want to say again, thank you guys for coming. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate.